Hi, my name is Dr. Ian Roach. I'm the Technical Director at Sabbath Bicycles, and I'm here to talk through some of our new models. If we start with the Emperor, which is our sort of new range topping frame, which encompasses a lot of the new design ideals we've got for next year. Sort of two really sort of key principles that run through the entire range, which dictate the sort of new radical sort of form of the actual overall frame. The first thing is obviously there's a number of curves sort of being introduced this year, and their sort of purpose is twofold. Firstly, by bending the frames into each of these junctions, we actually increase the surface area of the weld. So if you imagine a normal joint that does that, obviously the surface area is less than when the two tubes join in that sort of manner. So by doing that, you can actually increase localised stiffness. The way we're able to do that, because obviously the angles are dictated by the sort of the points of the bike which are sort of fixed in terms of the geometry. So by curving the tubes like this, we can actually increase these angles. We do that on the Emperor, both the head tube, the bottom bracket, the seat tube is also bent forward, and obviously again you can see it happening into the dropout and into the wishbone at the rear end there. The secondary benefit or reason for doing these curves is that the actual manufacturing process that forms these curves cold works the material in the region that's actually bent, and what that does is actually make the tubing stiffer. So if you think of it a bit like double butting, where you'd have a section of tubing which is thicker in these high stress areas and then thinner in the middle where the forces are not as great, by bending the tubes in this way we essentially create the same sort of effect. And because the actual forming process makes the material stiffer, we can actually use a thinner section of tubing, which makes the frames a lot lighter. So this frame, over the equivalent size Monday's trials from last year, is about 250 to 300 grams, depending on the size, lighter, so it's quite a significant change. The other sort of striking feature on the top tube is that the top tube actually comes round and wraps around the head tube. Again, this increases the surface area in touch with the head tube to make it a lot stiffer, and obviously we can now use a much wider in sort of profile top tube. And that continues, and again there's a cold working process. The tube profile actually changes into the rear end there to produce this very, very stiff wishbone rear end. Same principles applied on the seat stays. Again, this localised cold working, and you'll see that the profile of this tube goes from vertically overlised at the top there into sort of horizontally overlised into the dropout, which was how we could sort of tune the ride characteristics of this particular frame. The entire tube set as well, although it's made from 3.2.5, which is the same sort of chemically the same materials we've used in previous years, this entire tube set, when it's actually drawn, is drawn in a slightly different way, and the heat treatment after that is actually different, which means the actual tube set before we've actually manipulated the tubes in any way is actually stiffer than previous years, and again that enables us to use slightly thinner sections to save weight. On these increased area of welds, the sort of one potential problem you get with that is obviously because of the area is larger, you put a lot more heat into the weld. And traditionally that can be a bit of a problem because you damage sort of locally the material, causing it to be more brittle, which could cause the frame to fail. So we've actually developed a heat treatment process, and so after the frame is fabricated, it goes into a vacuum oven and is heat treated to reduce the stress around all the welds, so actually the welds are much stronger than anything else we've ever produced.